What's going on, everybody? You're listening to episode number 56 of Trail Tales. My name is Kyle O'Grady. I am your host. I am a thru-hiker, a peak bagger, and a hiking nerd. This is the podcast where every single Wednesday I chat with another hiking nerd just like myself about their experiences on the trail. Now, if you're a regular listener to Trail Tales, you definitely know this week's guest, Baker Bocorny. He's back again. This was his 5th time coming on the show. He was on just 6 episodes ago, not too long ago. But yeah, we did like a little very late Thanksgiving themed episode. It's not even really a Thanksgiving theme. That was the idea behind it. But anyways, we talk about that a little bit at the beginning here. But anyways, we just go over some things related to hiking, backpacking, through hiking, all that stuff, the culture, everything that we are thankful for. We talk about that stuff for an hour. We go way in depth towards the end of the episode on some of the more like emotional things that we're thankful for, and we also just say some of like the surface level, like kind of goofy stuff we're thankful for as well. I think we covered it all pretty well. So yeah, I'm already looking forward to the 6th episode that Baker and I do sometime in the future. So with that said, let's get into the episode in just a second. I do real quick want to do the usual like plugs. trailtalespod.com. First of all, I spent months like telling everybody about this new website, and then I just like forget to mention it every single introduction I record. So trailtalespod.com if you haven't checked that out. Instagram at trailtalespod, Facebook search trailtales, and Gmail trailtalespod@gmail.com. I didn't get any emails last week from any listeners, so somebody send me an email this week. That would be really cool. iTunes reviews, go leave an iTunes review. I'm gonna skip this week as far as reading the 5-star reviews, but I will be back at that next week, I promise. And yeah, Patreon is probably the last Trail Tales related thing to plug. Patreon.com/trailtales. If you're a regular listener, if you're just tuning in every now and then, I really can't ask you to give me any money, but if you're someone who listens every single week, if you want to ensure that I can continue to produce this show and just to help cover costs, honestly, then please go check out the Patreon. You'll get some bonus content. It'll be a good time, I swear. Patreon.com/trailtales. YouTube, Kyle Hates Hiking. Go look up my YouTube channel that you probably don't care about. Yeah, link in the bio, or in the bio. Wow, this isn't Instagram. This is bad, folks. Link in the show notes. Link in the freaking bio. Go check that out. So you could just search Kyle Hates Hiking as well. Can you tell I'm trying to get this one done? I think we should cut it off there. Let's get into the episode. Just in case you forgot, Baker thru-hiked the Appalachian Trail, the Florida Trail, and part of the Arizona Trail all in 2018. So yeah, here we are with our thankfulness episode, Baker Bocorny, episode number 5. Baker's back. What's going on, man?
Hello. I'm back.
He's back. He will probably be back again on another episode. I mean, which I feel like is pretty obvious. Like, I don't think anybody's listening to this and being like, yeah, this is definitely going to be the last time Kyle has this clown on the show. So right. Anyways, dude.
I'm sure they're not like, wait, Baker's back again?
Wait a minute.
Like, there's no surprise at this point.
Hopefully they missed you. I certainly missed you. Not going to lie, folks. There's 2 reasons why we're doing this video. The first reason is it's not Thanksgiving anymore, but we kind of had an idea to do like a Thanksgiving themed video where we just talk about hiking things.
Are we podcasting or are we videoing?
God damn it, dude. I've been doing YouTube for like a month and I'm already starting to confuse the
I know, you're cranking them out.
Fuck, dude. I was just like doing some video stuff right before this, so that's on my mind. Podcast, yeah, we were like, okay, to kind of, I guess, like counteract our trail grievances podcast episode, which we did a number of months ago now, still one of my favorite episodes. We were like, okay, let's do an episode where instead of complaining about shit the whole time, we talk about what we're thankful for, right? And I was like, Thanksgiving, that'd be a perfect time to do this. And then I fucking forgot. So here we are, like, I mean, by the time this comes out, it'll be a couple weeks past Thanksgiving. But like, I mean, we can still be thankful for things, so I thought we should still do it. And then I'm also going to be honest, I couldn't get anybody to come on the show this week, so I was like, call up Baker and he will make it happen. And here we are. So Baker, I can't even remember like how many episodes you've done now. Like this is going to be like what, number 5? Is it number 5 or 4?
I think this is the 5th one. One of those I was the interviewer though, so I don't know.
I count that. I count that.
Yeah. So my voice has been on 4 so far. This will be the 5th, I think.
Good. And like I said, he's going to be on it again and again and again until Trail Tales meets its demise, because we always have a good time. And yeah, so with that said, Thanksgiving stuff. I should stop saying Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving is long gone at this point.
Thankfulness. That's what the theme of today's episode is going to be. I will say, I mean, I'm sure most of the people listening to this like already know this, but we're both like pretty sarcastic, so it might be kind of bad that we're going to be sarcastic during an episode where we're trying to be thankful, but that's just the way it goes. Anyways, so I guess to kind of, not that we don't really have very many ground rules for this, but just like it's just to kind of set the stage a little bit, set the scene, I guess. I actually don't know if Baker like adhered to this because I don't know what he's about to say, but I think we at least like communicated that we were going to try to make these slightly more creative than like super obvious things like, oh, I'm really thankful for the trail. Like I'm hoping that we're going to go a little bit further, a little bit deeper than that, I guess, or like I'm thankful for trail magic and things like that. Like, of course we're thankful for, the trail, and of course we're thankful for all the people who maintain the trail, and I'm probably going to talk about this a little bit at the end as well. But for this just for the sake of this conversation, this little list thing we're doing here, we're going to be going a little bit more specific than that. So don't like the fact that like we skipped over a lot of the really obvious stuff. That's not because we're not thankful for that stuff, but that's just kind of what we're doing here. I don't know. Does that make sense, Baker? Like, is there anything else you feel like I should mention there, add on to that?
No, I think I got it. We'll try to make them not the obvious ones, like, oh, I'm thankful for trail magic or something. So
yeah, exactly. Baker's probably like hearing me saying that, and he's like, oh shit, like crossing out like all
yeah.
This
No,
stuff.
I'm scanning my list right now. I'm like, half of these aren't going to work, but it's cool.
No, we'll make it work. So yeah, dude, let's jump into it. Do you want to start or do you want me to start? Which I don't know why I'm asking you that. It's my podcast, so but yeah, actually, I guess that kind of makes sense. I'm being nice to my guest, so yeah.
That's
what should we do?
Nice of you. All right,
I'm a good guy. What can I say? You're gonna go first. All right,
let's do it. So this might seem like an obvious one, but
wait a minute. We just said we're not gonna.
I know. But this is like kind of interesting to me. So okay. People who pick up hitchhikers, I've never picked up hitchhiker. I've never picked up a hitchhiker before. I never really had even. I mean, I've heard of hitchhiking, but I never considered myself someone who would try to hitchhike or pick up a hitchhiker before I started hiking. And when I was researching it, like hiking the trail, I was like, what, people just hitchhike everywhere? And I was very afraid of that. But now I, do it all the time when I'm hiking, I guess. I haven't done it since I've been on, not hiking a long trail.
You're not like hitchhiking to work these days?
Actually, that's not true. I did hike when, we were doing it was a section hike, and after the section hike I did do, not a section hike, just like a short week hike, and I did hitchhike after that, but I haven't.
That's still in the context of hiking though.
Exactly. But yeah, I haven't on the way to the grocery store, I'm like, oh, what if I could just put my thumb out and
save some gas money today?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. And the funny thing is, we had Little Bear and I had probably 3 or 4 people who when they picked us up, we said, oh, do you pick up hitchhikers often? Like, do you live around here? And like, no, I've never picked up someone before. Which is like, that was just crazy to us. That, I mean, if some people pick you up and they're like, oh yeah, you're hiking from here to here. They've hiked the trail before, or they're just in general familiar with hikers and they understand what you're doing. But there were some people who they literally were like, they didn't know what the Appalachian Trail was. We were like, oh, we're trying to go to where the Appalachian Trail crosses at that road there.
Interesting. Damn.
And they were like, I don't know. Oh, I don't know where that is. And we're like, oh, okay. Like, it's
so
just
why did you pick us up?
Yeah. So I just couldn't understand why. I don't know. It was really interesting that there were these. It happened like maybe 3 or 4 times. I'm gonna attribute it to the fact that Little Bear is so small and cute and just looks very harmless that when
Probably
she's standing
helped.
on the side of the road. Yeah, that someone's like, oh yeah, I'll just pick these people up. We even had like 2 different times a car would go past us and then they did a U-turn to come back and get
Yeah,
us.
dude, that's happened to me before too. That actually happened to me at the end of the summer when I was hitchhiking back to my car after a hike in the Whites too. Like,
Yeah.
the car just like turned around and came and got me. So that was always nice. I am kind of surprised to hear that you had a couple people who, I guess maybe I shouldn't be surprised because it sounds like it was only a couple people, but that you had people pick you up that weren't really familiar with the trail. Because I'm trying to think. I feel like most of my hitchhiking experiences, not just on the Appalachian Trail, but just any time I've hitchhiked, obviously still relating to hiking, other hikes I've done, it's pretty much always been by someone who understands that I'm a hiker. Did they? Actually, no. I guess you pretty much said they didn't understand that. That surprises me. I don't know. You said it was just like 3 or 4 people.
Yeah, it was probably just, it was a minority of the people who picked us up. But it was, I think it was like 3 or 4 people who said they had never picked anyone up before. So one person said, I've been meaning to all summer. Like he was aware of what the trail was.
Okay.
And he said, okay, I've been really meaning to pick someone up. So I did. But there was this one lady who, she was like, so what are you guys doing here? Are you hiking? Are you are you skiing? Not skiing, but she was like, what are you guys doing out
middle
here?
Of summer in Virginia,
Yeah.
You guys going skiing?
It was like, this isn't like Vermont, I think. And she was like, I don't know. She was like, yeah, what are you guys doing out here? I'm like, oh, we're hiking the Appalachian Trail. She's like, oh, what's that? And so, I mean, she really had no idea what it was, even though she drove past it every day on her. Yeah, I mean, she commuted, so
that's a very like Vermont thing, though. I feel like just yeah. I guess the skiing comment makes a little bit more sense there. So I take back my sarcasm. But then again, it was still summer, so I don't know what she was.
I don't know. No, she didn't say skiing. I said skiing. That was wrong.
I gotcha.
She was like, "Are you hunting?" Like she didn't know what we were doing. She could tell we were doing something outside, but she didn't know what, and she didn't know what the AT was. So that was really interesting.
I just find that interesting because when I explain to people who aren't familiar with through hiking about the hitchhiking thing, like I always say that 99% of the time you get picked up by someone who knows what you're doing, who's familiar with the Appalachian Trail, most often lives in the area and has picked up, through hikers before, and that it's just different than like some bum standing on the side of the road, like trying to get to Memphis or whatever while he's in like Atlanta, like somewhere super far away. It's different. And so I always try to explain that to people, but now you're kind of making me second guess that a little bit because pretty much what you just said, again, it's not the majority of times, but I don't know. That's interesting, and I do speculate that it probably goes back to Little Bear being with you.
Yeah, I think so.
Because, like I said, I haven't really, or at least off the top of my head, I can't remember any time where someone had literally no clue. I know it's happened before, obviously, but I don't know. Through hikers out there listening to this, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. So I'm going to go into my first thing that I'm thankful for, and it actually relates to what you said, Baker, because when I was thinking of these earlier today, hitchhiking came to mind, but I was like, that's a little bit too broad, which I don't think it's not that broad, but I was trying to challenge myself, because clearly I do that more than you. So
yeah,
that was just mean. That wasn't even funny. That was just just mean.
I'm just shitting on your guest now. That's cool.
I'm sorry. This dude's came on my show like 5 times now, and I'm just here like.
I'm just a guest on the show. You're actually making the show, so you got some creds to say that you're overachieving.
What kind of asshole host would like invite people on a show and then just like shit on his guests? Like
it would be a really good premise for a show.
I feel like honestly, yeah, if it was like done with like everybody knew that was like the show's thing, that would be kind of funny. Actually, a little podcast idea for everybody out there.
Ooh, good idea.
But you have to be funny because like if you're just like being a dick to people, they'd just be like, "Fuck this guy!" Like why would I?
Like this is just terrible.
Why would I take time out of my day just to get like verbally abused by this fucking asshole? Yeah. Anyways, so this relates to the hitchhiking thing. So rather than just saying hitchhiking in general, I was a little bit more specific, and I said pickup truck beds.
Yes.
Because as I'm sure a lot of the people listening to this know, and some of you probably don't know as well if you're not a thru hiker, a lot of the time, especially when you're in a group of people, obviously, you will get picked up by somebody who either doesn't have room in the, like, I don't know, the cab of their, like, truck or whatever, but they do have room in the bed. And so you'll just kind of pile into the back of the pickup truck, and maybe they'll have like I guess maybe cab wasn't the right word to use there, because isn't the cab like the thing that goes over like the bed of the truck? I don't have a pickup truck, like I don't fucking know.
Yeah, I don't either.
The cover thing for the back, if they have that, you'll kind of duck under there and probably have not very much room. Or if there's, open air, that's even better. So I am very thankful for those rides because, like I said, especially when you're hitchhiking in a group of more than 2 people, say, it's like a lot of people just don't have enough room for, 3+ people and their packs and trekking poles and all that stuff in their car. So even if they want to pick you up, they just like literally don't have the room to do that. And so the pickup truck comes by and he's like, yeah, these motherfuckers can just hop in the back and then I don't even have to smell them, or, they can't like try to stab me or something while I'm driving. And so it's just like it's just a win-win. Well, I guess it'd be kind of sketchy for the thru-hiker if someone just drove off, but hopefully that has never happened and hopefully it doesn't happen in the future. I don't know why I had to go there, but I don't know, Baker, how often did you get rides in the back of pickup trucks? I know, again, it was a little bit different because you were usually hitching with Little Bear and I was usually hitching with like, the slippery boys, the crew. So there's usually squad. The squad, yeah, whatever. The
best hikers ever.
The greatest hikers to ever set foot on the Appalachian Trail. For reasons so obvious, we do not even need to talk about them.
No need to go into it.
But yeah, how often did you get rides in specifically the backs of pickup trucks?
That was probably the longest question you've ever asked.
I mean, yeah.
I mean,
okay, you're giving it back to me now. Okay, it's fine. I won't rebut.
Well, as a quick aside, now that I think about criticizing, I did have a whole a segment of one of the episodes where I was on where I just criticized your show. So I suppose I deserve it. It's all coming back full circle. But yeah, pickup rides in the back of pickup trucks are like, those are the best rides ever because you don't feel bad about getting in someone's car and like stinking it up, and just it's awesome being out like in the open air and like the wind's whipping by. It's definitely very unsafe, but it's it's so fun though. You're just like, oh, I hope you're like a good driver, like I literally don't know who you are. Not only am I getting in a car with a stranger, I'm also like getting in a car with a stranger where I'm not going to be buckled in at all. I don't even have a seat to like sit on. And so it's like the epitome of danger. It's
not good. And it's funny too, because I like from a very young age, I was like taught that I should always wear my seatbelt in a car. And to this day, if I get in a car and I don't put on my seatbelt, I feel like naked almost. Like I just don't feel comfortable. And so like, it's weird that I could be sitting in the passenger seat of a car and feel uncomfortable without a seatbelt on, but when I was in the back of a pickup truck, like in the open air where I could literally just get fucking like flung out if this dude like hit a speed bump hard enough, like I felt like totally fine and was enjoying it. That's kind of weird.
I don't know if I felt totally fine, but I basically just suspended my fear of danger in that moment. I was like, I really want to get into town.
Beggars can't be choosers.
And this is also going to be really fun. Like I knew it'd be fun, and I'm like, well, the odds that this particular truck in this particular time that I'm riding in it will crash are pretty low. So I was like, yeah, I guess it's okay. But yeah, it's definitely not the safest way. But I'm so thankful for those. Those are my favorite.
Those were the best. I'm trying to think of just like off the top of my head, I can remember. Oh boy, 1, 2, 3, Port Clinton, 4, 5, at least 5 times, 6, Gatlinburg. Like at least 6 times where I was in the back of a pickup truck, and
wow.
It was great on the Gatlinburg one. I might have told this story, or I think Mullet Mike might have told this story in one of the super, super early episodes, but we basically got a hitch with this dude, and he had it was going into Gatlinburg, so Smokies, Newfound Gap, all that stuff, a lot of tourists around, and he had a bunch of trash. I think he was camping. So he just had trash bags in the back of his truck, and 3 of us climbed into this truck, and we're just sitting on trash. We felt like trash, we were getting destroyed, rain wise going through there. It was just very fitting, I guess.
Yeah.
And then he also had a cooler back there, and he about halfway through the drive, he opens the back window thing, and he's like, "Hey, you guys could grab some beer out of that cooler if you want." So we're like, "Fuck yeah, we're gonna do exactly that." So we were just sitting on trash bags, drinking beer on our way into Gatlinburg, which was, I said, very fitting.
Instead of breaking one law, break 2 at once,
Yeah. Open alcohol in a car in Tennessee, where they're probably not super stoked on that, but
and in a bed of a truck.
And in the bed. Although I actually not pretty sure. I heard somewhere that that it was legal to be in the back of a pickup truck in Tennessee. It's definitely not in all states.
No, it's not.
I'm not a lawyer, so somebody go look that up to verify me. But anyways, yes, very thankful for pickup trucks, and in particular the backs of pickup trucks to go into town in when you're a stinky hiker.
Actually, quick thing,
go for it.
Thing to be thankful for about that. I'm thankful for all the states where hitchhiking was legal, because there were a few
That's
that we
fair.
went through that were not. I think it wasn't legal, right?
New York definitely wasn't legal.
Connecticut was Connecticut.
I'm not sure about Connecticut, because there's really only like 1 or 2 resupplies in Connecticut.
Yeah, but New York definitely wasn't.
New York, maybe New Jersey as well. Yeah. I'm not really sure. Thankfully, the trail going through that area is like either the trail like goes close enough to a town that you can walk in, or I feel like or at least one time I took an Uber as well. I think that was Harriman, New York. We all took an Uber in. But like if hitchhiking wasn't legal for some of the towns and like more remote parts of the trail, like you'd be kind of screwed because there's no like Uber out in like bumfuck Maine, obviously. So
no,
yeah,
definitely not.
Thank God, hitchhiking is legal for most of the trail. What's your what's next on the list, Baker?
All right, so this is kind of, I hope this is an interesting one. So watching the cycle of the moon progress like over a course of a month.
I don't know if that's specific enough. Can you be a little bit more specific about like what time of the month or
on a full blood moon, lunar eclipse? I don't know. But no, I thought it was pretty cool. Like I feel like I have a much better understanding of like why the cycles of the like I think I don't know. I guess I've tried to learn about why the moon has its cycles and why it changes shape over the course of the month. But I think I had a much better understanding after hiking. Like I could literally watch the sun set and then the moon rise, and I would see like the where the sun had been setting and then where the moon was rising, and then based on the position of where the sun was relative to the moon and where you're looking at it, you see like that's where the shape comes from. And I don't know, I never really put 2 and 2 together. I guess I didn't understand it to that level until I was actually out there. I would just be walking like at dusk or whatever, and that whole 2-hour process of the sun setting and then the sky becoming totally dark and then the moon popping up, and you just see that whole process happen. And then you see it the next night, and you see the shape of it evolve each night. And I just thought it was, I don't know. I feel like I have a much better understanding of the lunar cycle at this point.
Dude, that's really cool, honestly. I never paid attention to the moon. Like that all went pretty much like right over my head there. But now you're kind of making me bummed out. Like I feel like I should have paid more attention to that. So maybe next time. Did you? I don't know. It sounds like obviously, like you said, you learned a lot about it, but you must have had at least a little bit of an understanding about the stuff beforehand, because, or at least an appreciation for the moon. Like if that's a thing, like I don't know, because like I said, I never thought about this or noticed any of this stuff on my thru hike.
Well, I mean, I obviously anytime there's a full moon, I enjoy going out and looking at it, and I understood before I started hiking that there is a cycle that is roughly monthly, and it changes shape from a full moon to a new moon, and then there's every crescent.
See, I didn't even know that.
Waning.
So.
Oh well, I'm sure you heard like waxing and waning and stuff, right?
Nah, I mean I've heard of like a full moon.
Oh, okay, all right. Well,
and the Big Dipper. I've heard of the Big Dipper before.
Well, I'm sure you. Okay, that has nothing to do with the moon, but that's a constellation. But okay, anyway, it's sort of the same thing. But no, I'm sure you've seen how there's like a semi-crescent, right? Sometimes the moon is okay. Well, why it looks like that. Like I never really understood why sometimes you couldn't see the moon at all, or sometimes there was a crescent of a certain shape, or why you had a full moon. And then I feel like I had a much better understanding of it after just kind of seeing, the whole sunset to sunset and then moonrise process, like, over a whole month and seeing it evolve. It just kind of clicked with me. So I don't know.
That's interesting. Like I said, yeah. I see. Honestly, dude, like you got me stumped there. Like, I don't even know. Like, I don't even know what to say. Like, damn. I mean, I wish I had paid more attention. Why didn't you mention that when we were on trail, dude? Like, you just totally.
I don't know. I think I didn't maybe think about it until I was in Arizona, because it was always very
fair.
Yeah, like I think I know. Actually, that's a good point. On the AT, I probably did not see it that clearly. I think most of the time I saw it was sometimes in Florida and then definitely in Arizona, because there's pretty much no tree cover. The sunset is it's like usually very clear where the sun's setting, and then when the moon is rising, there's very little there's not much light pollution, but also more importantly, there's like it's low humidity, so you can see like the moon very clearly. But it's, you pretty much, you can see it every night because it's not clouds, there's not trees.
Yeah.
And so that's a good point. I probably had that realization more when I was in Arizona. That's a good point. Because in the AT, it's very difficult. It's not consistent. You're going to see it every night. And most nights you probably won't see it.
That would make a lot of sense because, like I said, I didn't notice it, and I've never really hiked out west, or pretty much never really hiked out west. So, like, maybe that's just one of those West Coast things I have yet to ever notice or experience.
Even then, it has to be like not, because you could have places out west that are like in the forest and you would have the same experience in the AT, but like Arizona had we would go days without a significant amount of forest. You'd have like little scrubby trees and bushes maybe, but once you get towards the southern part, you can go for hundreds of miles without really going through any significant amount of tree cover. And so if you pass through those areas at night, then you just you get a really good view of it. So
dude, that's so cool, man. I really want to hike out there. I feel like it would just like kind of like, I don't even know, like freaking like reinvigorate like my desire to like be on the, not that I don't have a desire to be on the trail anymore, but it would just be like learning to hike again, like that fresh feeling of when you first start, like all over again. Like, I don't know, because the environment would just be so different. And honestly, whenever I do the episodes on here where I'm talking about West Coast trails and learning about West Coast trails, I'm always like super stoked on it. Like, so yeah, I got to get out there. Taylor Norton came on the show a few episodes ago, and he was talking about the Tahoe Rim Trail, and that kind of got me stoked for like, because that's like a relatively short trail that I could potentially do on like my vacation time. So anyways, yeah, dude,
all right, let me know when you're going and we'll do it.
Let's do it. Yeah, I mean, you're experiencing this obviously because you freaking live out there now in Colorado. So I'm gonna go on to my next one here. So I am thankful for the rattles on rattlesnakes. Not to be confused with rattlesnakes. I am not thankful for those motherfucking things.
Of course not.
Those things can fuck off. Although there's probably some like biologists listening to this that's like pissed that I said that, because like there's some like super important like
absolutely
thing for like the ecosystem that I totally just disregarded there. But from a hiker's perspective, fuck those rattlesnakes. I am thankful for the rattles though, because there was a couple times, and honestly one time in particular, where I probably would have stepped on a rattlesnake if the thing hadn't rattled at me first, and other times where I came like a little bit closer than I would have liked to and realized it because of the rattle. So thank God that those things have like a very loud and bone-chilling sound that they make when you're too close to them, because fuck those things. Did you ever? How often did you get rattled at by rattlesnakes?
I know one time in particular, like Little Bear and I had a very intense rattlesnake encounter. I'm trying to think if there were any others aside from that. Probably like one. Yeah, actually, there was at least one other one in Virginia in the Shenandoahs, I think. And I think those are the two. And the thing is, sometimes the juvenile ones have really wimpy rattles, so sometimes you don't always hear them. But these ones were like, one of them was in New York, I think, and that was just like that was so funny because Little Bear was ahead of me. She's walking past some really short bushes, and all of a sudden this like super loud rattling sound just starts happening, and she's like holding a bag of like Cheetos at the time, and it scares the shit out of her. She just throws the Cheetos everywhere, like they're all over the trail, and she just starts running down the trail. And I stop because like it's kind of in between us. And we just sit there and like we can hear it rattling in the bushes, but I can't see it. It's like super loud, trying to find it. Finally, it just starts slithering out across the trail. And it is like, this thing is so thick. It's probably like 2 inches or 3 inches thick. Dude, they get
so big. It's crazy, yeah.
It was like terrifying. I was like, God, that would have like been really bad if someone had been bitten by that. But yeah, I'm definitely thankful for those rattles. I wish all snakes were required to carry rattles. It's just not fair.
And bears, while we're at it too, like
bears should be too, yeah.
Mountain lions, anything that is a threat on the trail should have like a rattle. Can you imagine if bears had like a little tail with like a rattle on it? Like,
that'd be pretty funny, actually.
I feel like that would honestly make them less intimidating. Like
you see a bear, it just turns around, it's like wagging its butt at you. Like, yeah, that would make it a lot less intimidating.
Now let me ask you this: how often did you see a rattlesnake that didn't rattle?
Well, if it wasn't rattling, I probably am not knowledgeable enough to identify if it's a rattlesnake or not. I
feel like you would know, Baker. Like,
yeah, I guess. I don't know. I can't think of any that were rattlesnakes that weren't
Interesting.
rattled me. I'm sure there were a few. I really didn't have that many snake encounters when I was hiking. Even in Arizona, I don't think I saw a single snake in Arizona, which is like I was expecting to see them everywhere, but
yeah, no kidding. That's kind of crazy. You probably walked by a couple and just didn't realize it, but
oh no, I definitely did. I actually had a coppertail that a copperhead that I literally put whatever it's called,
a rattletail.
This the stingy, bitey, poisonous one, which I know they're not poisonous or venomous, but anyway,
danger boy.
There was a danger noodle that I didn't see at all. I literally stepped right next to it, and there was a rock in the trail, and I put my foot right over the rock, and I kept walking past it, didn't even see, and then Little Bear's like, whoa, shit, there's a snake right here. I turned around. My foot was inches from a copperhead. And I was all coiled up. It didn't copperhead, whatever. Excuse me. It didn't even move. I don't know. I mean, I was very lucky. There was another snake encounter where I was again walking and I didn't see the snake. Something kind of rustled in the bushes to my right, but like there's always like stuff moving in the bushes, and usually it's just squirrels. So like you just kind of get used to it after a while. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't really even notice anything, kept walking, and then Little Bear's like, did you just get bitten? And I said, no, I don't think so. And she's like, there was a snake literally swinging off your foot.
What the fuck?
Seriously, I mean, I didn't even see it because I just kept walking. And so apparently this thing, I mean, it was a small snake. We saw it afterwards. It was very small, but I think it just bit on, and I had my ankle braces on at the time, and I think it bit onto the ankle brace, but it's so small that like it didn't, its teeth didn't bite into me, and I didn't feel it. And apparently it stuck on there, and then as I swung my foot, it swung around, and it just went flying off into the bushes.
Fuck that. What kind of snake do you know?
It was so small, I didn't even see. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know what it was. But I was like, so I think I technically was bitten, but I didn't. I took my like sock off and everything. I was like, did I just not notice because maybe it's hot out and I'm just like ignoring pain right now? But no, I had no bites or anything. So I don't know. So yeah, I've had a few snake encounters that probably should have been bad, but they ended up being fine, I guess. So,
dude, that's crazy. I mean,
that was really weird.
Snakes, besides the poisonous ones, do bite. So venomous. Hopefully, honestly, I know the distinction, but I have a hard time pronouncing that word for some reason. Venomous. Yeah, venomous. I always want to say like venomous, but
it's actually venomous.
Venomous.
Yeah, I think you're saying it wrong.
Okay, well, thanks for the clarification. I always just say poisonous because of that, but yes, I know the distinction. To your story about stepping over the copperhead, I read somewhere that those snakes like freeze up. So like they won't like move sometimes when they're like really close to someone like that. And so it's possible that happened. It's also possible you just totally surprised the thing. Like, I don't actually know, but that's pretty crazy. I only saw a couple copperheads and none that were like directly on the trail, thankfully. So snakes. It's been a while since I had some good snake talk on here.
Yeah,
so.
you gotta hate on snakes every once in a while.
Yeah, that's always good. Yeah, dude. What's next? What are you thankful for?
So I don't know if I'm actually thankful for this or not. I think I am.
It's a good way to preface that one.
So privies on trail. I think I'm thankful for them, but sometimes I'm not. I don't know.
Because that's fair.
Like usually a privy's there. That's a good thing because like, okay, I don't have to dig a hole or whatever. But sometimes you wait for a privy because you see in the guidebook, there's a shelter coming up with a privy, and you're excited. And you're like, all right, don't have to dig a hole. But then you get there and you're like, I really don't want to go in there. Like it's the conditions of a privy can vary from some that are like have no smell magically, like if they're brand new or if they just
cleaner than a public restroom.
Exactly, some of them. But then some, not so much. They're like, the refuse is piled up to the almost overflowing out of the seat area. Yeah. So I don't know if I'm thankful for or not. That's kind of a mixed bag, but sometimes I'm definitely thankful for them.
Yeah, I totally get that. It honestly just depends on like the condition of the privy and the condition of you needing to use the privy as well. Because there's definitely a couple times where especially in the morning, usually, like I did not, like when you're around a campsite and there's other people there, if you were to not use the privy, you'd have to go decent ways off the trail to find a private spot, obviously. And obviously not to go where someone might walk or set up a tent, obviously. So those circumstances, I was always super thankful for them. I will say, though, before my Appalachian Trail through hike, I despised privies. I hated using them. I probably could count on one hand the amount of times I did use them, and I had done the long trail. Everyone listening knows my freaking hiking resume by now, but like,
can you tell us again?
Yeah, why don't I
trails you hiked?
Why don't I just remind you? No, but I had done a decent amount of backpacking, and I always would avoid the privies if I could. And it wasn't really until my Appalachian Trail through hike, I guess, that I just completely embraced like dirtbag mode and like just started to use the privies often when they were available. If I still had to choose between a super easy spot to go off trail and dig a cat hole and a privy, I'd probably choose the cat hole. But if I had to choose between like a decent privy one that's not like completely destroyed and like bushwhacking like through in the south where there's snakes and stuff where you can't really see where you're stepping and like going down a steep hill or something, then and I would and ticks, yeah, too, true. I would probably choose the privy in that circumstance. So that's definitely a good one. I will say I'm going to kind of transition into my next one because it's also like relating here. Great minds think alike, Baker.
Of course.
And this one was not only, again, trying to be more specific here, not only privies, but the people who maintain the privies. Because kind of going back to what you were saying about how some of these privies are in shitty condition. If you catch my drift there, someone eventually has to go deal with that, and someone has to. I'm not even going to pretend I know exactly what goes on there. I know there's a lot of shoveling and digging involved, so someone has to deal with that. Flipping, So I'm very thankful for the folks, whether they're volunteers or paid. I don't give a fuck. Like, you couldn't pay me $1 million to do that shit. Actually, maybe $1 million.
$1 million? Yeah.
Okay. You couldn't pay me like $10 an hour to do that shit. So
no, definitely not.
So like I'm just very thankful for those people. Did you ever like think about that? Like, holy shit, someone has to deal with this. Like, fuck that.
Yeah, I feel like I talked to at least 2 different people out there who, so I met a few. It's usually, I remember it was a lot in the Northeast, like Vermont, had what they call them, caretakers, right? Or what do they call the people who basically live at the shelters or they live near them?
Yeah, I think caretakers is the word the Green Mountain Club uses.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the word, but I definitely remember
ridge runners. Yeah, something.
Yeah, sometimes it's ridge runners, but the caretakers were usually they were in a specific kind of, well, I guess ridge runners are too, but they're walking the trail, whereas the caretakers are often kind of near those. Yeah,
those I think it's paid. I think it's caretakers. Sites. Yeah.
Yeah, but I talked to a few of them, and they explained a little bit about what they had to do, and they were like, yeah, it sucks, but I don't have to do it that often. And I was like, he's like, I have to do it when there's a lot of people coming through all the time, and I'm like, yeah, it doesn't sound fun, but I don't know, they dealt with it somehow. I get to live outside and like live on the trail, so there's some advantages to it.
When I was like in high school, or not in high school, when I was in college and looking for like summer jobs and stuff, I did like look into like those kind of jobs like for a second, whether it be like Green Mountain Club or Appalachian Mountain Club in the Whites, and I was pretty quickly dissuaded based off of the job responsibilities listing privy maintenance. So maybe I'm just a pussy and I need to like suck it up. But yeah, not really for me. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not super stoked about dealing with privies, especially because I know like about norovirus and how hikers can really be pretty abusive towards the privies sometimes. So definitely not speaking from personal experience there. So like I would never. So yeah, that's fuck that shit. Quite literally, fuck that shit.
Nasty.
Actually, no, that's quite literally for part of that statement, not the entire statement. That's so fucked. Oh my god, where am I going here?
Is this an episode where we're being thankful or we're criticizing? I can't remember.
Well, I am thankful. That's the whole point. Like, the people who put up with that stuff, like, good for them. Because we could not have privies if it wasn't for them. No. And a lot of things for that matter, because obviously the people who maintain that stuff aren't just doing the privies. They like don't just have like a one like privy guy like
the privy guy coming in every day flipping it.
Anyways, so that's mine. What do you have next, Baker?
So this is something that took me a while to appreciate. Initially, I really didn't like it, but the lack of, in general, just distractions that you have compared to not being on trail, and the subsequent boredom that comes with that. So like when I hiked, I think I can count, maybe it was like 2 or 3 times that I actually hiked while listening to music or podcasts or anything. It was just a couple times, and I had my phone for gut hooks, but it's in airplane mode, and none of the other apps work. So there's pretty much nothing that you can use your phone for that's entertaining when you're in airplane mode. And I was using it for gut hooks, but I feel like I could have used a book and it would have been the same thing. There's not, I wasn't like pulling my phone out and like looking at gut hooks when I was bored. Usually I was pulling it out for like a purpose,
Yeah.
But basically, yeah, my phone turned into this almost useless brick aside from navigation. And it was really interesting. Like the places your mind goes when you're walking all day, and there's just almost nothing to stimulate it in the sense that we usually have in kind of the real world, if you will. And, and you have to kind of force yourself to just like, look around and engage in what's actually around you, to find, things to look at. But you also have to just get, like, I found I had to get used to just random thoughts popping up in my head and just being bored, and like just having to listen to my own thoughts all day, which was kind of terrifying at times. Just like, just your raw, like whatever you have, like you've run out of things to think of, and then some new thing pops up and your mind just kind of wanders. And actually after a while, I really started to enjoy it. Like I found myself, I was able to I could think about one thing for 30 minutes straight, just keep thinking about it, and like almost zone out from what I was doing, like from the walking part, as long as it was kind of not a dangerous situation or something like that. If it was just kind of a chill section where I was walking along and it kind of looked similar to what I'd seen before, so there was nothing really catching my attention, my mind would just wander for what felt like, it'd be like hours, like it could just wander. And it was really interesting to be forced to spend that much time being bored and then getting over the boredom and then just kind of thinking and, being in your own thoughts and being in your own head. I don't know. It was kind of cool.
Definitely, man. That's like, I'm glad you said that, because that's like a step away from the more literal ones that we've been saying so far.
Yeah.
And I definitely appreciate that as well. I'm definitely thankful for that. Honestly, the first thing that comes to mind for me when you kind of brought that up is this show, because I don't know I always had the desire, I've said this before, like I always wanted to do some sort of like content, but I don't know if I really would have like put a plan into motion and really kind of committed to it if I didn't have so much time on the trail to think about it and to kind of convince myself that I had no reason to not do it. Because like, again, I think I've said this, but I first started like envisioning Trail Tales when I was, or no, let me back that up. I first started envisioning like a podcast, like creating a podcast. I hadn't thought all the way to Trail Tales yet, but I had those thoughts like when I was still relatively early on in my thru hike. I mean, I was in Virginia. I remember one spot in particular where I was like thinking about it and like trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I don't know if I would have like followed through with that. I don't know if I would have had enough time to like think of ideas and just like really commit to it if I hadn't had all the time to just think about it and not be distracted by anything else, So that's pretty cool. I don't know maybe there's definitely a lot of stuff, but is there anything in particular that you thought about quite a bit that you're comfortable sharing on the show? Obviously, that comes to mind when you're like kind of talking about this stuff.
Yeah, I thought a lot about what I wanted to do after the trail, which is probably bad. Like I probably should have just been enjoying
I
the
think
moment more, but
I can relate to that too. I think what you mean there is not in like a way where like, oh, I can't wait to be done the trail so I can do X and Y, more of just like eventually this is going to end and, this is a good time to kind of think about that stuff.
Yeah, I thought a lot about that. And I thought a lot about thinking like, well, I knew that I was enjoying myself so much when I was hiking. And so I spent a lot of time thinking, how can I set up my life such that I can do this more frequently, right? Or like, what could I do that would allow me to do this more often or more easily, or what could I do that would give me this type of experience? I also would think a lot about what it was I was enjoying about the trail. I spent a lot of time thinking about that. I never really got a good answer, but I would try to think of like, what is it that I'm enjoying about this experience? And even if it's not a through hike or like a long hike, what could I do? How could I, style my life such that I could, have these kinds of experiences more frequently, and so, yeah, I thought a lot about that. So I thought a lot about, what I wanted to do for work, because that's kind of the largest barrier, or the biggest opposite to hiking is like having to earn money and then not having a job later to go hike. And so I thought a lot about what I could do around there, and it actually helped me a lot when I came back. I had pretty much already made my mind up that I knew what I wanted to do for a job, and I did apply to like a bunch of other places, but I pretty much knew what I wanted to do, and it really at this point I'm just so like I spent so much time thinking about what I wanted out of if I had to be working, like what I wanted out of a job. And so that really helped me, because before that, when I left, I was like, maybe I'll go back, maybe I won't go back, maybe I'll do the same thing, or maybe I won't.
Referring to your job that you were at previously, right?
Yeah. And so I ended up going back to the same job, to the same company. And the lot of what I was thinking about was, did I want to go back? Like what did I actually want? If I'm going to be working, what kind of work situation do I want to have? And I spent so much time thinking about there, and eventually I came to the conclusion that I really did want to go back. So I was very at peace with that decision, like much more at peace than when I left initially. When I left, I was like, I might come back. I left on as good of terms as possible so I could leave that door open, but I was definitely open to the idea of like, maybe I wouldn't. But I really had so much time to think about it. I really had run through every scenario and considered every possible, part of it that I could think of. And so, yeah, it was really nice to have that much time to think about it. And I find now I struggle to think about something for extended periods of time. One, because I don't have usually extended periods of time where I'm literally doing nothing, or I don't have any sort of other easier, more entertaining distraction to prevent me from just thinking. Or also, even if I do get an opportunity, I actually find like my mental stamina, I just can't sustain it as long, which sounds weird, but I feel like I actually had the ability to really concentrate on one thing and zone in super, super closely for really long periods of time by the end of all my hiking adventures. And I think I've lost some of those abilities now, because I think I'm just out of practice, sort of. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that definitely makes a lot of sense, and I can appreciate that as well. I get distracted pretty easily too. Like, I'm always on my phone or social media, doing all this stuff. And I don't think that's necessarily like a bad thing, but it is nice to kind of be forced to just like chill on that stuff. Like, especially, and I'll take it out of the context of a thru hike for a second. And this does relate. This past summer, I was doing a lot of weekend stuff, and whether I was going out for just a couple hours or if I was going out for like a 12-hour plus hike, which I did a few times trying to finish up my 46 in the Adirondacks, I was kind of able to like experience that a little bit in the midst of like a normal like life too. It wasn't like an everyday thing like a thru hike, obviously, but I was kind of able to get like a small taste of that. And I feel like it was very refreshing. And also too, like on a lot of those hikes, I would drive like a couple hours. So that's like another time where I've experienced like this very similar thing is when I'm on long drives. And I've always really enjoyed long drives by myself. And I think it's probably for the same reason that I've enjoyed hiking. So I don't know, that's kind of interesting. I love how we went from like literal like shit conversation and talking about like all these like material things to like this like abstract like philosophical like mindset thing. Hiking it's both, right? It encompasses like these very basic and things like, I have to figure out how to poop without a toilet, like that's like a could be a large aspect of hiking. But then the more you do it, you get used to those things, and then it starts to become much more of this like mental game. And then you start to get all philosophical of like, why am I out here? And like we talked on the episode where I interviewed you, there's, I spent like months trying to figure that out. I couldn't figure it out. You haven't been able to figure it out. I think it's really interesting to try to analyze like why people are doing this. Cause from like a logical
rational point of view, it doesn't make, there's like no reason to do it, right? Like
Yeah.
we have like, if you want to travel from Mexico to Canada, it's by far the most difficult and slowest and probably one of the, like, a very expensive way to do it, right? Like there's just no logical reason to walk out there. So it's not, there's not always an apparent obvious reason to why people are doing it. But yeah, hiking is a huge dichotomy of these really simple and really, kind of just basic experiences, and then these also very profound and really interesting experiences as well.
Dichotomy. That's a big word. I don't think that's ever been said on the show before. So.
Using the D word. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe someone said it. I don't know.
All right. So my next one is very materialistic. So great transition. A little bit more basic. This one is hostels and hotels that had good Wi-Fi. Because as a lot of thru-hikers know, it's hard to get good Wi-Fi like while you're on the trail, and like sure you might have cell service sometimes, but everyone knows it's just better to have Wi-Fi, right? And a lot of these establishments, and to be fair, they're often in rural places that aren't going to be served by like the best like internet speeds and stuff. So I'm not saying it's all like their fault, and there's like a lot of people connected to the network and stuff, but it was always nice when you got that one. I guess probably more often it was hotels, but I can also think of a number of hostels that had really good Wi-Fi. That was always like super great because you could catch up with everyone and just like zone in on your phone, which as we just discussed, you're not doing very much when you're through hiking. And so that was just like super, super great and not the norm. It was not like, it was a lot more common to have shitty Wi-Fi at wherever you're staying than it was to have good Wi-Fi. So that was always a treat. Maybe people are listening to this like years in the future and they're like, what are you talking about? Like there's freaking 5G Wi-Fi everywhere I go now. But right now or at least in 2018, yeah, good Wi-Fi was a rarity along the trail, I would say. Would you agree with that, Baker?
Yeah, in general, the latency was not so hot. Throughput was not great either. But I think I'm trying to think what I really did on Wi-Fi. The only thing I would really get jazzed about Wi-Fi for was like I would take photos and I had them in Google Photos, and so it would upload them. I was always a little bit afraid that something would happen to my phone. I'd drop in a river, whatever, and all those photos that I had saved only on my device, I would lose them. And so I had a lot of photos that I didn't want to lose. So that was the main thing I got excited for with Wi-Fi. I remember meeting Ibitat, and he was always talking about how excited he was to find good Wi-Fi as a content creator and like uploading videos frequently. I don't know. I don't really know what else I really did with Wi-Fi. I feel like when I was in town, I never FaceTime, but I would definitely, that's true. I pretty much wouldn't use my phone on the trail. Like I would never turn off airplane mode, even to text my family. Like I was like, sorry, family, you're just going to have to hope that I'm not dead. But in town, I guess I would probably text a lot more. And sometimes I would, you could do like, if you have good Wi-Fi, you could like actually watch something on Netflix or watch a YouTube video or something. So that was kind of nice.
Yeah.
But,
like watching like videos, honestly, that was probably a big one for me. And like I said, FaceTiming, I didn't FaceTime that often, but I did a couple times. And with shitty Wi-Fi, that's usually, damn near impossible. So that was always like a treat.
Actually, I remember that's when I usually would go in and upload. If I was like when I was doing daily posts, I would upload them all to Instagram once I had Wi-Fi. So that was actually something I would get kind of excited about because I could do it over the phone, but if you have like bad 4G, then the photos take a really long time to upload if you're doing a lot of them. So, but that's it. I could even do that on like pretty bad Wi-Fi. Like it's not like uploading video or anything. So.
Yeah, true. It sounds like I was probably on my phone a little bit more than you were because I would use a decent amount of my data. And so having good Wi-Fi to kind of take care of some of the stuff that I needed to do on there, like on the phone, was always nice too because I knew I was saving a little bit of data. I was used to pretty fast like internet access coming from like my college campus right before I left, like had really good Wi-Fi. So I was just like super used to that. And so it was always like frustrating just having to wait for shit. It's such a first world, like freaking millennial, whatever problem, but
we're such millennials.
Actually, technically, I think I'm not a millennial.
I don't think you are.
Like
we found out in your episode,
what
we know
is
when
the
you're
cutoff?
born.
Millennial.
It's like 90. It's like 19. 93 or
The
4.
Pew Research Center defines millennials as born from 1981 to 1996, in which case I would be like the last year because I was born in 1996, so I would be like the cutoff there. But
yeah,
I've also heard that like I don't think there's like a definitive like freaking.
Yeah, it depends on where you see it. There's different definitions in different places.
I'll call myself a Gen Nar. Or
Gen, that's your own generation.
That was the worst joke that's ever been made on this podcast.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
That was awful.
They can't all be slam dunks. You can always edit it out. It's fine.
Oh yeah, God. I guess depending on whether or not people hear this, they're gonna know what I thought when I was editing.
That's true.
So
we'll see.
Hi, future Kyle. Anyways, yeah, dude. What's your next one?
So should we go more literal, or do you want to go more philosophical?
Surprise me. Shit.
All right. I'm gonna go philosophical
Let's
again.
do it.
So being put in uncomfortable and undesirable situations. So I feel like, most days, like if you live in North America and you're, fortunate enough to have consistent housing and consistent food and stuff like that, and consistent running clean water, then it's pretty rare. If you really want to, you could pretty much avoid most discomforts in life. You can have air conditioning all the time. You can have a hot shower. There's tons of access to food. You can sit all day. You don't have to walk all day. You can drive your car to travel long distances, those are awesome things. Like there's a reason we invented all of those things. And it's when you're hiking, you get put in so many times you're just put in like challenging, and not even just challenging, but like just like not fun like situations. Yeah, just like this kind of sucks, right? Like, and it's not even that it's like, oh, I'm climbing a steep hill, but I'm getting an amazing view. Like that's like a nice challenge. Sometimes you're just like you're actually just walking in a forest and it's raining, or it's like insanely hot out and you're just sweating, and there's like no good views, and you're like low on food and your feet are really hurting, and it's just like not fun. But I feel like there is a lot of like value to be had in being in uncomfortable and undesirable situations. I feel like it just makes you appreciate the times when it's not so bad so much more,
Definitely, man. Definitely.
I don't know. It's like, it seems weird, but humans are always intentionally putting themselves in weird and uncomfortable situations. So I guess there's something wired in us that makes us want to do that. And I'm not sure what it is, but there are certain kinds of people who definitely seem to like to do this consistently. And it's, I don't know. It's something that's kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, I feel like this is like kind of the essence of this whole episode, like being thankful for hiking. And I definitely agree. This is something that I kind of realized pretty early on, like before I thru-hiked the Appalachian Trail, just when I was first getting into backpacking and stuff. I really do think that it like made a pretty big impact on just like the way I kind of view normal life. And I'm not going to say I was like spoiled or like entitled before. I think I was a pretty decent kid growing up. Mom, I know you're going to listen to this, so you can attest to that hopefully. But after I started backpacking, I did just kind of think about these things a little bit more. And one thing that in particular that comes to mind is I feel like backpacking has really changed my appreciation specifically for food. Like before, yeah. I feel like growing up, I was like a pretty picky eater. And after like just having such limited options, like backpacking, it kind of made me realize that like I should be a little bit more thankful for the food that I have in normal life that's like super available and fresh and not that bad. And then also other things too, obviously, just like being comfortable. This is honestly something that I do try to remind myself of on a fairly regular basis. And, it's easier sometimes than it is other times, depending on what the situation is. But it's definitely true. And obviously, like I just said, it's pretty much the essence of this whole episode. As far as just being thankful for what we have on and off trail. That's a good one, Baker. That's a good one.
Yeah, it's kind of funny when you're done hiking and you've been in all those uncomfortable situations. It kind of makes a lot of other situations that maybe would have been uncomfortable or not so fun before you did all that hiking. It makes them much easier. Like this is a silly one, but I was at my parents' house for Thanksgiving, and one of the rooms has a pull-out sofa and the other one has an actual bed. And my brother and his wife were in the real bed, and so Jessica was with her parents, and so I was there alone, and so I was like, oh, I'll take the pull-out sofa because I don't care. And then my brother and his wife left like a night earlier than I did, and my mom was like, oh, do you want to move into the other room now? I was like, no, like I don't want to get the sheets messed up just for like one. I don't want to cause make them dirty just for one night or whatever. Like I'll just stay here on the sofa bed. And she's like, but it's not nearly as comfortable. It's like you're going to sleep so much better on the other bed. And I'm like, Mom, like I slept on the ground for like 2/3 of last year. Like this bed is amazing to me, And so it's kind of funny how, there's all these, it's kind of like before maybe I wouldn't have a great excuse because my mom is like so nice that she's going to like keep pestering me until I finally say, sure, I'll move, whatever. I'll move into the other room just so you feel better. But now I have these like nice excuses where I'm like, well, it can't be worse than blah. It can't be worse than blah. And people are like, oh, okay, I respect that. And so, yeah, it's kind of I don't know. It's kind of interesting. There's some really interesting things that kind of come back from the trail that you can bring into your real life.
Definitely. I feel like I said, it's definitely given me some more perspective on the big things. However, I will say for the little things, like traffic in particular, driving, I still get fucking pissed off at stupid shit that like I should know better than to get mad at because it doesn't really matter. But I don't know. I guess it's usually just the pointless things. As far as things that are more important and, actually could have an impact, even if it's a small impact, like, for having to make a family member do some extra laundry, those kinds of things, it's definitely had a positive impact. And that's a good one, Baker. I think we have time for one more, and I'm going to do this one. So this one is very specific and not philosophical at all. However, it does relate back to everything we've said on this episode and every single other episode we've done because I am very thankful for the hot tub in that hotel in Gorham because if it wasn't for that hot tub, I don't think we ever would have met, and we never would have done any episodes together, and I would not have an episode to put out on Trail Tales this week. So that's the most important thing here, obviously.
That is the most important, of course.
But no, I'm thankful for that hot tub. What was the name of that hotel? I don't even remember. I was
going to say, it was like the something inn. That's not very helpful at all.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, that one. The inn at Gorham.
That was one of the nicer hotels it
actually was.
I stayed at anyways.
And that was so cool that the hot tub was actually in the health club next door. It wasn't actually part of the hotel, but for some reason, I think they must have owned both places, but you could go in there and like chill out in the hot tub. So that was
the Royalty Inn. We were treated like royalty. Shout out to the Royalty Inn.
Yes.
I don't remember what we paid, but I remember the price was relatively like reasonable as well.
Yeah.
It was right in town, close to everything. There's a couple hostels in Gorham. There's lots of lodging options there, but if you can stay at the Royalty Inn, you'll get a hot tub. And you can sit there and envision Baker and Little Bear walking up to me and my crew and I've told this story before, but it's like
on the glass.
Yeah, tapping on the glass, like, how do we get in here? So good, dude. So
and you guys didn't even like point or like say, we're like, signaling to go around. You were just like staring at us.
Dude, I've said this before, but like,
assholes.
We just like, we like to chirp people. So we're like, oh, look at these douchebags, like trying to figure out how to get in here. Little did we know that is the exact same sense of humor that you kind of have too. So it worked out pretty well.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I remember when you guys were in there and you were all, we had a discussion about how pretty much everyone in the squad was very against yell blazing and frowned upon it. And I remember you guys were like really, really talking about it. And I was like, oh man, I really hope they don't ask if I've ever yell blazed, because I technically yell blazed around the Smokies. I mean, it was for an injury, but I technically took a car and went around it. And so I was like you guys started talking about that. I was like, I'm just going to be quiet during this one. Like, because it was clear you were very, very against it. I was like, oh boy.
Yeah, we got pretty worked up about that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't really care as much now, but I will say that we were more, or I'll speak for myself. I was more upset with the people that like, not the people who like skipped like, a section because of something like that, or like, I remember one person, I think it was Catwoman, like way back episode in, I don't remember the number, 20 something. I think she said she skipped like a couple miles because she like got a ride from one road and then got dropped off at a different road and didn't want to like inconvenience like the person driving her. Like, I'm not talking about the people that, like stuff like that. I'm talking about the people who are not the majority of thru-hikers who like would just kind of like, they were half hiking, half kind of like partying and like hanging out and like doing like goofy shit like that. So that's more who we were upset with.
Yeah. I figured that would be the case, but I was like, I didn't know you guys at all, so I wasn't sure if you were like how serious you were about like, you know, all this ridicule.
I kind of honestly, dude, the fact that you're saying this right now kind of makes me feel bad. I wish we hadn't been as wrapped up in that stuff looking back on it, but
yeah, I mean, you gain perspective after you finished the hike like that, and you've talked to so many people now that it's just like, you know, I definitely was much more of a purist as well. I was a pretty big purist until I was kind of forced to skip that section, or it was going to be Little Bear was going to be ahead of me and I was going to hike, you know, not with her. And I was like, this is just dumb. It's literally a 75. I calculated it was like 2% of the whole trail. I was like, am I going to like let her be ahead of me and then have to spend like a month trying to catch up to her just because of like 75 miles? Like they're just arbitrary miles. I was like, it's just not worth, like in that moment I was like, it's not worth it. I'm just going to skip ahead. And after that I was like, all right, there's some legit reasons to skip parts of the trail and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I was definitely very purist and probably would have felt the same way you guys did if I had managed to get all the way there without skipping any miles. So,
I mean, as one Yellow Blazer told me, the ATC calls it the 2,000 miler club. So as long as you hike over 2,000 miles,
that's true.
It counts as a through hike. Like that is decided. That is science. That is proven in the name 2,000 miler club or whatever it is.
Yep.
So yeah, you can't argue with that. That's a joke, by the way. Someone did actually say that though, which is kind of hilarious. But
right.
Anyways, yeah, I did get a little bit worked up, and that being said, we certainly never like called anybody out for it. Like we weren't like assholes about it. And for the most part, we kept it to ourselves, which is why I'm a little bit disappointed that we brought it up to you when we just met you, because that wasn't normally what we did. But I don't know why. We probably shouldn't have. But anyways, yeah, I don't even know where I'm going with that. Trying to save face here. Don't be a dick to Yellow Blazers, people.
I mean, you've
to their faces.
You've rectified it on later episodes, so it's all right.
Yeah, I am clean. Shit, dude. I think we're gonna kind of wrap it up there. I really have to pee, and I have to go to the gym. And the Bruins are playing, so I kind of want to tune into that as well. Baker, thank you so much. We're gonna do another one soon, depending on how soon I run out of people to have on the show.
Sounds good.
Or until we come up with another theme, a fun theme. Honestly, dude, these are my favorite episodes. I love talking to people I don't know. I love learning about the new trails and stuff. And maybe if every single episode was like this one, then they wouldn't be my favorite episodes because they wouldn't be quite as special. But dude, I just love bullshitting like this, and I love doing the lists and stuff. So yeah, this was fun, man.
We'll have to keep thinking of the listicles.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'll actually have a few people that I could probably suggest to be guests. So I'll try to. Do you want me to reach out to them, or do you want to reach out to them?
Depends on who they are. We'll talk. We'll have
They're not famous people, but yeah, I have a few people I think would be interesting.
We'll have a secret meeting afterwards. That is no longer secret because everyone knows about it. But you're not invited because it's already happened by the time you hear this, dude. Plug your shit. If someone's heard you plug this stuff 5 times now and they haven't followed you, I feel like they're probably not going to follow you. But
that's fair. They don't need to. It's all good.
But yeah, I'm say it anyways.
I'm at BBOKORNEY on Instagram. That's cool. My only platform, if you can call it a platform.
Cool. Everybody go follow him. Yeah. Thanks for listening. Dude, one thing I need to say. I'm an asshole. Maybe I should edit this in, just make it sound like I said it earlier, but I'm very thankful for everyone who listens to this show. That's what I was going to say. The fact that more and more people are tuning in, and the fact that I got a DM from somebody from Switzerland today that listens to the show.
Whoa. I
was in her, because again, this is going to be old news by the time this comes out, but the Spotify Wrapped thing that everyone's throwing up on their Instagram stories today, Trail Tales was number 2 of her most listened to podcast or something. She's from Switzerland. Cool. And I just thought that was so cool. So I'm thankful for everybody that listens to the show. Incredibly thankful, honestly. Definitely thankful for anybody who sent me a message, anybody who's supported the show on Patreon, certainly all that stuff. And just anybody who tunes in. With that said, I think we're going to wrap it up there, Baker. I'm thankful for you coming on a 5th time, of course. And yeah,
anytime. It's a blast.
Happy, although to be honest, by the time this comes out, we're going to be almost on Christmas.
Yeah, it's almost
like
early
halfway
Christmas.
between Thanksgiving and Christmas. But
Yeah. Happy mid-December.
Happy December 11th. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Merry Christmas. Yeah. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye.